recently I have been on a quest to find the perfect action camera. I've been using GoPros ever since I started using action cameras. However, I'm just not happy with the low light performance of the GoPro. They've kept the sensor size the same year after year. So I've recently tried the DJI Action 5. This is a really good camera, but I still wasn't happy with the image quality coming out of this camera. It has good low light performance. It pairs really well with their microphone, which I really like, but the HDR is always on, and I just didn't like the image. It just looked too fake to me. Now, I've recently tried shooting in log, which is a little bit better. You can get the DJI LUT, apply it to the clip, and it looks better, and it gives you a lot more flexibility because it's 10-bit log, but it just adds an extra step to my workflow. Recently, I've made 2 videos comparing these 2 cameras, the GoPro and the DJI Action 5. And if you've watched those videos, you know that I mentioned I'm looking forward to trying the Insta360 Ace Pro 2, which I just got my hands on. Now, just as a disclaimer, Insta360 did send me this camera, but it's because I reached out to them and I said, would you please consider sending me this camera to review on my YouTube channel? And they did. I would have bought this camera, to be honest. I would have returned the DJI Action 5, which I most likely still will. The big downside to the DJI that I've found recently is you have to choose between a really wide field of view and really good stabilization. So if you just leave it in rock steady, that is a good field of view, but it's not stable enough. If I put it in rock steady plus, which is really good stabilization, it crops in too much and I don't like it. I think this could be the answer. This has really good low light performance. If you're not familiar with this camera, it's got a flip up screen. It's got 2 AI chips inside. So this video is not going to be a full kind of review of this. It's going to be a comparison because I want to go ahead and jump in comparing the Insta360 to these 2 cameras, and that's what we're going to do in this video. If I decide to stick with this, then I will do a full-on review and show a lot of the features that I use. Now, before I get into the comparison, I'm just going to say here's how I use an action camera. This is a cycling channel, so I use it mountain biking, chest mount, sometimes on the handlebar. I put it on my gravel bike on the handlebars, and then I do kind of like vlog style. Like if I'm doing a bike review and I need to talk and whatever, I will hold it out in front of me. So we're going to test those 2 scenarios. So let's look at what you get in this box. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that. And then we're going to jump right into some comparisons. So I'll just mention in the box, you actually get an extra battery. I opened up the camera to put the battery in and realized there was already one in there. So you get 2 batteries. You get this mount. So this is your magnetic mount that attaches to the bottom. And then you get an extra windscreen. So what's really cool about this camera is it has a built-in windscreen. I'll probably end up getting a foam windscreen just to put over it, just to try it out. And you also get in the box a USB-C cable that's USB-C on both ends for charging. So let's go test this camera. So we're going to start this comparison with a low light test because it's nighttime when I'm starting this. So this is the GoPro. The problem with the GoPro is the sensor's so small that it has to really ramp up the ISO. It gets noisy and grainy. So this is the GoPro. Let's switch over to the DJI. So here on the DJI, I'm using the Super Night mode, which does not exist on the GoPro. And it does its processing to really boost up the image at night. Now you can't move around a lot with these because it's going to mess up the image with some noise and some jitters and stuff like that. So on the Insta360 here, I'm using what they call pure video mode, which is their low light mode. I don't know exactly why they call it pure video, but it does work well. I can look on the screen and I really love the flip up screen on this thing. If you want a vlog camera, like it's going to be hard to beat this Insta360. So just walking around like I did with the DJI. Now for my outdoor vlog test, and the way that we're going to do this is we're going to walk from one end of my yard to the other and back, and we're going to get into all kind of various lighting situations. Now I will say that I'm using the foam windscreen right now on all the cameras except for the Insta360 because it has this windscreen built in. And I went out on a nighttime gravel ride last night and realized that the wind screen does work really well. I would only use stereo. I may try wind reduction on this because I think it's better than the other cameras. Wind reduction on the GoPro is terrible. So I want to also mention that I like the little mount on the bottom of this camera. You can get this from Insta360. It's a different mount that has a 1/4 for a tripod and also has the flip out feet. So it's a really nice mount, and when I do my full review of this camera, I'll talk about that more closely. Now, I'm going to take advantage of doing a vlog by just talking about different features of these cameras. So we're on the GoPro right now. You can see that on the bottom left. And I will say that using an action camera whenever you're moving around is your best option for video, better than a phone. I went out with the Google Pixel 9 and an iPhone 14 Pro, Google Pixel 9 Pro, and walking around, the stabilization and video quality was much better on any action camera. So I just want to mention that because with the phone, when you're moving around, there's all kind of like jello effects in the trees. And with an action camera, it's so good. Any of these are gonna be better than a phone if you're moving around. If you're stationary, then a high quality phone is going to be your best option. But anytime you're walking around moving, action cameras are great. So that's the GoPro. We're going to switch over to the DJI, and as I do so, I'm going to talk about some of the features of the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 that I really like. And now over to the DJI Action 5, and I'm using the phone windscreen because I've got some wind out here a little bit, and I am shooting in regular color. I'm not using the log right now because I want to show this just as it comes right out of the camera without any kind of color grading, because I think that's how most people are going to use an action camera. They're just not going to do the extra step. So I will say that the one downside, the only downside that I found so far with the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 is the fact that if you shoot in log, it's 8-bit. However, using the camera, the video straight out of the camera is easier with the Insta360 because you've got different picture profiles that you can choose, which I really like. But again, that's the only downside. An upside to this is that it is an 8K sensor. Yeah, that's better in the light. It's an 8K sensor as opposed to GoPro's 5.3K, and the DJI is a 4K sensor. Now, I would use 4K on this because the file sizes are bigger, much bigger with 8K, and it crops in a little bit when you're using 8K. So for standard video, mountain biking, I would use the 4K sensor. But if I were just sitting in front of the camera talking and I wanted to get the best picture quality, then I would use the 8K sensor. And by the way, one of the picture profiles with the Ace Pro 2 is a flat color, and then you also have the option of log. But if your main jam is shooting in log and matching it to other cameras like a mirrorless camera, DSLR, then you're better off going with the DJI or the GoPro because you can shoot 10-bit log. So I'm going to switch over now to the Ace Pro 2, and I'm going to talk about some of the really cool features that I like about this camera. Now over to the Insta360 Ace Pro 2. I've already mentioned the flip up screen, which in this situation is excellent. And by the way, for all of these videos, I'm shooting in linear so I can get it as narrow as I can for vlogging, because action cameras are still pretty wide even in their linear mode. So here are some of the things I really like about this so far. Number one, like smartphones today, you can actually take a photo while you're shooting. So there's a little photo button I see on my screen. I can just tap it and take a photo, which you cannot do in the other cameras. Also, the camera vibrates when you push the record button, either recording the video or stopping recording, which is really cool because if you're riding a mountain bike, sometimes you can't hear the beep, but you can feel the camera vibrate. Also, you can pause the recording. Like high-end smartphones today, while you're shooting the video, you can actually pause the video and then continue it so you don't get a separate file. I will mention that the front screen is information only. There is no video coming out of the front screen, which is another slight downside. If you want to quickly turn the camera around and record in front of it, may not be a big deal for most people. For me, it's not that big of a deal because I'm either going to have it on the chest, or if I take it off, I'm going to have a separate clip and just flip up the screen. I really like the flip up screen on this camera. I'll also say that the buttons are harder to push down on the DJI than the Insta360. and the GoPro. The DJI power button is so hard to push down. It's really annoying. I will say that the menu system is easiest on the Insta360 Ace Pro 2, which we're on right now, followed by the GoPro, followed by the DJI. The DJI isn't bad. It's just there are times when I'm looking for something in the menu and I just don't know where to go, and I have to poke around and finally find it on the DJI. Something else about the Ace Pro 2, like the DJI, you can plug the cable right into your laptop or your computer and download the videos. With the GoPro on my Mac, I can't do that. I have to take the SD card out. So that is something that I like about the DJI and the Ace Pro 2. Also, when you're charging, the DJI has a percentage that you can see how much it's charged. The GoPro and the Ace Pro 2 is just a light that comes on when you're charging and it goes off when it's done charging. Here's a cool feature about the Ace Pro 2 is if you want to cancel the video, you can just hold down the record button for 2 or 3 seconds and it will clear out that video clip so you don't have to go back and delete it. That's a really cool feature that's not on the GoPro or the DJI. As far as form factor, the Ace Pro 2 is the biggest of these, and as far as weight, the GoPro weighs about 154 grams. Look at my notes here, that's why I'm looking down. The DJI is a little bit lighter at 145 grams, and the Ace Pro 2 is 180 grams. When I'm mountain biking later today, I'll tell you if that's a factor. I probably won't even notice that when I'm chest mounting. I know holding these out, I really don't notice it a whole lot, but just want to mention that. The last thing that I'll mention about the Ace Pro 2 is you can pair a Bluetooth mic. I compared the DJI microphone. I'm going to try that in my full review. You can pair AirPods, and you can also plug in an external mic. So I have a Rode Wireless Go 2 system that I can plug the USB-C cable right into the camera, and I can record that way. Again, those are things that I'll test when I do my full review of the Ace Pro 2. Before I wrap up this vlog segment of comparing these cameras, I want to throw something in here that I noticed when I was editing the videos. I was doing a comparison with the GoPro and the Insta360. I was indoors wearing a dark blue shirt, and I could not believe the amount of noise I could see in the GoPro footage in the dark areas versus the Insta360 where I saw no noise at all. Look at the black toolbox if you notice it. I don't know if you will, but on a large monitor, again, when I was editing it, I really noticed it. So let's switch over to the GoPro and we'll see if we can see it in this indoor situation in the dark areas. And over to the GoPro. Again, it was just something that I noticed indoors. I wasn't even using the pure video mode of the Insta360. It was just the regular video. The pure video, again, is what they use for low light, which works really well, as you probably saw in some of the other clips. So again, just wanted to throw this in here, something that I noticed when I was editing the videos. So that is my vlog test. Now, let's go mountain biking and check the stabilization, the video quality, and the field of view on all 3 of these cameras. A bit of a change of plans here. I'm gonna make the mountain bike video a separate one because this one is getting much longer than I intended. I ended up flapping my gums more than I thought, but there's just a lot to talk about with these cameras. Honestly, this video could be 2 hours if I went into every single feature and every single situation that you could use these cameras. But again, I'm gonna focus on vlog style and then of course mountain biking. And so the next day after I post this video will be the video of the mountain bike test, because that's the big one for me. That's the decision factor. Looking at the vlog video on my computer, I would say the GoPro still has the more natural color, but the DJI Action 5 and the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 are much better in low light, and it brightens up my face more when I'm in front of the camera. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. Like I said, stay tuned to the channel. It'll be the next day. I'm going to post a video of the mountain bike comparison. Thanks for watching.